All right, everybody. Adam and John back with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast, and we're going to start out. We're not even going to talk hunting for a while here because we're in the mind of the herd bull right now with the one and only Chancy Walters. But this guy, if you follow along, is deep into the bass fishing this time of year. So, first of all, how are you doing today, Chancy?
I'm doing great. I've been painting all day, just trying to, when I'm not, these tournaments have, it's about a 10-day, you know, session from when you travel to get there in the tournament and then, preparing here at home. And we got snow and I don't have a heated garage. So it's kind of miserable working on tackle and all that stuff. That's going to change here directly, hopefully here soon. But just been in between each tournament, I'm trying to keep caught up with my artwork because that's what pays my bills. These feather paintings I do. That's what makes everything happen here.
So, from that, obviously, you're one hell of a hunter. We'll get into the bow hunting stuff because I got tons of questions on that. But
Mm-hmm.
from your upbringing and stuff like that with the art, like that as a means of life, like you said, that's what pays the bills, right? So
Yeah.
how fulfilling is that? Because we talk about it in terms of whether you were bass fishing for a living or you were hunting for a living, at some point it becomes work, right? So
Oh yeah.
how do you balance that, or where are you at with that?
Yeah, the paintings. I'm not gonna say, oh man, I just love painting these damn things. It is work now, but hey, it gives me the flexibility. I'm very blessed to be able to, paint when I want to, when I need to get caught up, I just make my own time. If I want to break away and go fishing, obviously I have to, make up for it, but I can work for myself. I don't have to answer to anybody except for my chick. You know what I'm saying? So there's no boss. I'm my own boss, which is nice. And that makes it to where I'm able to, leave for a month to go hunt with Jared and or, go on a two streak tournament, so.
So so my grandma was an artist. She had stuff all over the country and down in
Yeah.
South America, that sort of stuff. Did
No
religious
kidding.
things. And what I'll ask you is the same question that I always would ask her, because she was always working on something that was commissioned for this person, or I'm
Yeah.
working on that. When you do it for yourself, what are you working on for you?
You
What's
know
your
what?
outlet?
I haven't got to paint something for myself for a while. I just the orders. Let me just show you here. I got. This whole book. Well, not the whole book, but that's all feather orders, feather orders, feather orders. It's just stacked. But I want to get to a point to where I get a couple of my other businesses going or something to where I don't have to rely on these feathers. And then I can paint these big masterpieces that I want. And I painted them in the past. I can't be jacking around painting something that I want when I got all these orders, and I usually get 1 to 2 orders a day. So I try to paint 2 days a week and try to knock out, 10 a week is my goal, paintings a week. So feather paintings, that is. So one
So
of these days we're going to be able to, hey, I don't need these dang feathers to make me money. And then I'll build these big masterpieces like I've always wanted to, because I don't really get to showcase my art talent through the feathers. It's a very small canvas and but they're one of one original and they're affordable for everybody, so that's why I paint them things.
but what would it be for yourself? When that day comes, what's
You're
going
gonna think
down?
I'm crazy. I'm actually wanting to. I got a couple ideas. I don't really want to say it because it's kind of an idea that I think another artist could steal the idea, but I got some pretty cool ideas coming up with some deer paintings. But I love waterfowl, man. I want to do some awesome waterfowl paintings, potentially some offshore fishing stuff. I just love. Ducks and stuff are just so cool, man. I'm a big waterfowl hunter, and they're painting them are one of my favorite things to paint, and turkey paintings and stuff like that. But mainly wildlife. I ain't painting no portraits and stuff like that. I got buddies that'll do that stuff. Oh. People are too perfect, man. If I paint you and it doesn't look like you, I'm like, God damn, that don't look like me.
I'm
Don't
gonna
look
have to
like
get you to
me.
paint me a
Especially a
whopper.
woman. You never paint a woman because they're you better paint them better than they look. That's a fact.
So how did you end up on the bass side of things? Like going
Well,
in tournaments and all in?
yeah, my roots is bass fishing. My dad, he loved to bass fish. He was not a tournament angler. I watched, when I was a little kid, I got that subscription. Richie Wallace, a buddy of mine, I remember we were a little kid. He's like, "Hey, you got to join the Bassmaster magazine." And I was pond fishing and stuff with dad. And he's like, "If I get it, then I get." He would win something, a bunch of tackle or something, if he would sign up or something. It was like, this is years and years ago. I was like, 7, I think. And I've always wanted to be a professional bass fisherman ever since I was a little kid. And you know, growing up, it was always kind of one of those dreams. Man, it takes so much money to do, and but I've been fortunate to, reach out to different sponsors. First of all, I grew up fishing my home lakes, and I got my ass kicked when I was really young. I had a flat bottom boat. I had a cooler built in, and the guys that would beat me, they all seen those lakes before they were built or before they were filled up, so they knew where all the structure was. There was no electronics then, so I'm out here. I'm pretty much bank beaten. I don't know where these hidden rock piles are and brush piles and all this shit that they knew, and they're just dominating everybody. But I always told myself, I was like, I'm going to figure out how to beat all these guys. And I ended up, learning a lot more and everything. But I ended up, we just got electronics, and now I can see what the hell's down there, and they weren't beating me no more. So, I learned, from the roots of bass fishing, from, fishing the bank to I love offshore fishing, and I feel like I've got her dialed in with it. And, I feel like to go to the next level in tournament bass fishing, if you ain't winning around home, you ain't hanging with those boys out there on the opens. That's definitely that's the toughest tournament circuit in the world. And I'd have about everybody back me up on it. That's a tournament fisherman, but
So I feel like this is John's realm here with the fishing. I brought
yeah,
John back,
yeah.
we're gonna go with the fishing. Your brother did some tournament bass fishing. You ever go with them or anything?
Yes, like we grew up doing the same thing. It was like Thursday night tournaments around here,
Yeah,
Muskegon Lake,
yeah.
Whitehall,
Wait.
and we, it was fun. And we did a lot, did a lot of it. And then my brother, he took off. He went off and he quit his job and went and played semi-pro hockey. And when he got done with that, he's like,
Wait.
I'm gonna go on the bass tournament. So he started out like the pro-am around here, and then
Uh-huh.
ended up
Yeah.
he won like or placed high enough in like the area here, and then I think they had like a big, like, I don't even know what they called it, but it was like down in Kentucky or something.
Oh yeah, Kentucky Lake probably.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
big, but he was just like a madman. Like he wrecked 2 boats in one summer. Like he
How do
had
you wreck them?
he had his boat was like a 21 Nitro
Uh-huh.
with like a 250 Merc on it. And
Yep.
he was pre-fishing, and he was down in the river, and he was running wide open while another boat come out of a bayou, so he had to swing
My
close
God.
to the bank, and he hit a deadhead, and
Oh,
it literally destroyed the motor, like almost ripped it off the back of the boat. It
the
came up so
transom
hard that
crack it.
spider webbed the whole top of the transom and all that, and
Oh,
it crushed the whole intake and everything. Like the whole front of the motor was just smashed. So he's like, he borrowed his buddy's boat. His buddy had like a 22 footer.
uh-huh.
So they both bought them at the same time. And so they were overfishing like Detroit area, and he had a limit, but he had to run back, and he was like 40 miles. And he was like, I had to get back to the weigh-in, because if I didn't, he wouldn't make it for this regional or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the boat started missing, and he was just like, left it
Hammer
pinned
down.
and blew a rod right through the block of the motor.
Oh my God! On the way back in.
Yeah.
Oh, nightmare.
So then they had to fix that, but then so they had to borrow another boat to go down to down to Kentucky.
Yeah. That was back in the 2-stroke days, probably.
Oh
You
yeah,
can't run them that hard.
there were all the 2 strokes.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, them
And
things.
I was like,
Yeah.
and they were both running. They were like a 250 racing series. Like they'd bought the boats from down south that were pro boat. Like the guys they'd buy them and use them for a year or whatever, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
ditch them. And so they didn't give a shit. Like those guys, they wanted the fastest boat,
Yeah.
Put one of them racing motors on it.
Yeah, they had I think they had them. I remember those Mercuries that had it was almost like a little devil head on them, and it was like it was a different color. It was almost like a yellow and red, and they had the little racing head on there, and it was just racing or something on them. I remember seeing those motors back in the day.
Yeah, they were pretty hot, but yeah, he wrecked two of them.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, I live for this tournament fishing. I mean, everybody's like, oh, what do you like to do? Deer hunt or bass fish more? And I'm like, thank God I don't have to choose. So
right.
I love it all. I try to.
Yeah, me too. Like I don't bass fish much anymore, but I focus all my like walleye fishing here, and especially like I love night fishing for walleye. Like we go to Lake Erie and stuff, and basically that's just meat fishing. We go out and throw boards out, and Adam's like hates it.
It's dumb. Like I'd rather catch a big old freaking like dogfish or something, because at least they fight. Like you're reeling in the planer board, and as soon as the planer board clears the side of the boat, like it's like reeling in a boot. It's like the board fights harder than fish.
Yeah, I love jigging them though. If you get on a good jig and walleye deal, that's fun. I mean, I love catching walleyes that way. I mean, here's the deal: I don't get to fish walleyes very often, but I love doing it. And I love to eat them. So if I'm gonna get around them, I throw them in a live well. I eat them in a tournament. If I'm in a tournament, I'll keep the walleye. I'll throw them in the live well, clean them later.
Yeah, but then other than that, like my focus is saltwater fishing. We go to Florida every year for 2 weeks, and like I was saying earlier, we rent a boat. We have a house right on the water. Get the boat, pull it up. We have, a cleaning station, ice maker, bait freezers, all that, and
dialed shit. I'll see you down there one of these times.
It's like my after we got back this time, my wife was like, I barely even seen you this trip. Like,
you just zombie out, bud. You're zoned in. I mean, get it while the getting's good.
I'm like, if you want to see me more, you just got to come on the boat with us.
That's right. That's right.
And she was actually on. It was pretty cool the day we caught our wahoo. We were there for, like I said, 2 weeks, and we might have had 3 days that were like good enough for trolling. I mean, that's just part of the the chance you take this time of year with the weather in the winter. But that's when the wahoo are in. And that's our focus in the morning or late evening. The bite for that's usually for the first few hours or a couple hours in the morning. Then we'll go catch bait. Then we'll go out and drift fish or jig.
Nice. That's
go
awesome.
after.
Big fish. You ain't doing no baby bass. You're out there wrecking the monsters. That's gosh. I'll tell you one thing I haven't got to do, and actually I take that back. We went out for a little bit. It was in Cabo, but I knew it was going to be a joke when we rented the boat. But it was more just an outing with the ladies. But I've never got to go, troll marlin or mahi or anything like that. I want to do that sometime, and that'd be fun. I mean,
Cabo.
Yeah,
we used to go there. That was like another thing I was telling you earlier was we used to charter. We've been to Barbados, Grand Cayman. We've been to Cabo like 3 times, and we'd always charter a boat. And it cost you $1,000 or a couple $1,000 and for one day. And like when we'd go to Cabo, we would want to go after wahoo, but of course, like it's just like salmon fishing here. If they're not here, you're not going to catch them.
Exactly.
Of course, they just want your money. So like, oh yeah, we'll go wahoo fishing. Yeah. And we get out, and I'm like, those aren't wahoo lures. They just threw out the marlin rigs. I'm like, okay, whatever. And 2 years in a row, my buddy Mark and I both got 120-pound striped marlin. So it was pretty cool, and we ate it. It was like actually excellent eating, but
nice. I've never had striped. I mean, I've had marlin like tacos at a Mexican restaurant, stuff like that down there. But
you talk about the mahi, and we can get back on the fish, other stuff,
So you killed the mahi.
I love you. I ain't scared of nothing. You bring it up. I mean, I'll talk about anything. I love it all. I love all species.
I was just outside of Puerto Vallarta, and we were in like a 25, like no 20 21 foot Panga, tiller motor, whole thing. There's four of us on the boat and two crew. We went 13 for 20 on mahi mahi, and it was the most
Wow.
insane fishing I've ever seen. Like,
Look beautiful, man. I just want to get like a big old bull, like a 30 to 40 pounder, and just get a badass picture, and I'm good. You know what I mean? I just want a cool picture.
oh yeah, we've been like we took John's advice and we've been to Cabo a couple times and fished, and we caught some down there too. But I mean, we were just on this little tiny boat. They just push them out with a 4x4. They just
Oh my
drag them
God.
around and they just run them right up on the bank and drag them off. Like,
Really?
and you're like, there's no way. We were like 8 miles out, like fishing on this piece of freaking
Little,
rope.
oh my God, it'd be like the weather better be glass out there jacking around out there. That'd be Pocahontas.
But so like for you and doing the thing with Whitetail Adrenaline,
Yeah.
no sponsors, no nothing to the bass fishing thing where
You
it's
gotta have
expensive and you got to have sponsors. Like what's the difference there? Why,
Well, Whitetail Adrenaline. Obviously, I'm a character on there with Jared. Jared owns the business, so and he takes care of me. He, sends a camera on me. I get, I'm pretty blessed. I'm able to get the best cameraman, whether it's, Matty Z or TC. I mean, I'm pretty John Adams. I mean, I've had some of the best cameramen behind me to where I don't have to worry about them. I can just worry about hunting and, getting in on one of these big deer. So I've been fortunate there, but yeah, the sponsor deal, Jared's got his layout of how it is. And I think it's really awesome. He doesn't use sponsor. Pretty much the sponsor is everybody that watches it, they're buying the merchandise and the DVDs, and it's pretty awesome. He's got some pretty amazing stuff in the works. I think it's going to completely, I feel like only probably 20% of the deer hunters in the country even know what Whitetail Adrenaline is. Once we get it out, he's working on some stuff. We get it to where it is, where he's wanting to get it, it's going to be huge. I think. I just, you know what I mean. He ain't got it in front of that many audience. He's not doing YouTube, nothing like that. So he's got some stuff in the works. I think it's going to blow up pretty good. And get a bigger audience. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not everybody knows about Whitetail Adrenaline.
Oh,
everybody knows about a lot of the other hunting channels and Hunting Public and stuff like that. They started doing the YouTube stuff, and that's awesome. But that's just not what Jared's wanting to do. And if we would have done that, it would have been like that. You know what I'm saying? But he's got a different outlook at it, and it's it's going to take a little bit longer for it to benefit him, but it's all coming together really nicely. I think I think you guys are going to dig it, what he's got coming up.
But I guess what I mean is like from a like product standpoint, like, so we're here, like we love gear. I love gear. John's like really particular. He's persnickety. Like, I want to try all this different stuff. John's like, pump your brakes here. Let's just get the best stuff and we'll just stay with that. Like, I don't need to try anything new. And I feel like that's the way that you guys are with hunting, like go to Walmart, buy some spray paint, buy some white sheets, buy some clothes, make it work. Right.
Yeah.
And then in the bass fishing world, can it work like that?
Well, I mean, for sponsors, like, I've been very fortunate, and I've got some amazing sponsors that, people that it was almost like I was like scared to ask, you know what I'm saying, type of deal. But I mean, Skeeter Boats, they take care of me. The Northern Rep, he's got me hooked up pretty good. I mean, I don't get a free boat, but I get a really good deal. Minn Kota and Humminbird, Tim Price there, he's been amazing to me. And I just joined in with GSM Outdoors, which they bought Yamamoto Baits, Bill Lewis, Buckeye Lures. They own Muddy now. They own Big Game Tree Stands. Avian X decoys. They own tons of stuff, tons of cameras. And anyways, it was pretty awesome to be able to get joined up with those guys. Chris Duncan, he kind of lined me up. He lined me up with the GSM Outdoors, and got my kind of like my connection in the door there. So it's pretty awesome for them guys to sponsor me. And I got a bunch of other people that, I mean, the list is crazy. That's, it costs a lot of money to run these tournaments and have the best equipment. You can't have no stupid stuff going on out there, and you got to have good equipment. And I got new rods. I got some new rods out that I think you would dig if you're a big, since you're a big walleye guy. Look up Trica Rods. It's a new company up there. Larry Pokerbeck, he started the company. He's the originator of the Rage Broadhead, the Raven Crossbow, and all that. He's moving to the fishing side of things, and he's got a rod that is absolutely, it's the nicest rod I've ever held in my hand, and I'm not just saying that. It's like an $800 to $1,000 rod for $300. And he don't need the damn money. He pretty much told me, he said, I want the best damn rod for the best price. So he feels that he has the number one rod in the world right now. And Trica, you have to look it up. They're lighter than any rod you've ever held. I feel like they're more sensitive. I've held NRX Pluses in my hand. This thing, I feel like it's on another level, which is spooky to say. So you have to check them out. But
do you think like a guy could go to Walmart, enter the tournament, and kind of, because I think that's one of the things, like when you talk like about the hunting public and like when you watch Whitetail Adrenaline, like I think that's where you're saying, okay, no sponsors, we're doing this on our own for the love of it, and you're killing incredible deer, right? So could you do that from
with the fishing side of it, if you already had money, if I already had like a bunch of money, like, hey, money's not an option, I'll buy my own stuff and just fish, old school stuff. I mean, I don't need the damn best rods to go catch bass. You know what I mean? It's just nice, I mean, am I going to go throw a 202 Zebco on and go out there and flip around? I mean, could I do it? Yeah, but it's not going to be efficient. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, I feel like, I could, get by with what I had years ago and go compete, but you got to have some nice stuff. These guys are too good. You can't half-ass out there. It's a different level. Bass fishing, being consistent in the bass world, whole nother level than killing big bucks. I feel like killing big bucks is way easier than tournament bass fishing and being consistent. That's a fact.
Well, and not only that, I mean, like killing a big buck, I mean, you're doing a lot of the homework and stuff. It's not costing any money. Where these guys, you're going on a fishing, like you said, you leave early, got to go pre-fish, scout, do all that. I mean, you can do that hunting, but then you're doing it 2-3 times a month. Or,
on lakes that I've never even, I try to do as much research as I can, from YouTube and tournaments from the past, old Bassmaster tournaments or FLW or whatever, to try to do as much homework as I can and look at my maps. I got the new premium Lake Masters right there, boys. Those are the real deal. But anyways, I do a lot of map study here at home. I got one of my ice fishing units, Humminbird ice fishing unit, and I can put my graph and I can be in here and kind of look at different breaks and contour lines and stuff like that, which makes it nice.
And that stuff is not cheap. Like I just bought, like before we went down to Florida, I went and bought the Seymour mapping, which is all the salt water.
Yeah.
And it's all, I mean, $700 for a chip. Like, same thing though. I set the graph up on the, at the house before I left, and I'm mapping it all out. And then like I was telling Adam earlier before you come on, like that was a complete game changer. Like the last few years, we found fish, but it was just like, okay, there's a wreck here. We know the wreck's here. And then just kind of drifting off. Well, now, like this year, we went down there and like, all right, we're going to fish this 90-degree break in the coral. Like, sure enough. Yeah. So I'm like, sure enough, pick up a nice mutton. It's like, we would have never even fished that spot before,
It's complete game. I mean, you're fishing, you don't know what you're out there. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, you look back at our past and fishing, it's like, things are changing and and it's crazy. Think what'll be out in 10 years. You'll be able to wear a pair of damn glasses and be like, oh, there's one. I mean, who knows what's going to be? It's going to be Back to the Future shit for sure. When it comes to fit, it's going to be a whole nother level. I mean, you think live scope's cheating? Mega Live's cheating. You think Live Target's cheating? Shit. You wait until what they got coming out. It's going to blow your mind, probably, what's coming out in the
So,
next decade.
so on that level, and that is a great, like, we did a podcast earlier this year talking about like cell cams being cheating, right? So you can you get a picture, you go in there and you kill them, right? So like, how do you feel about that for in the deer woods?
You know what? There's all kinds of flavors of hunting. I would never put down anybody. I mean, I might give a little shit just for fun here and there, but there's different styles of hunting. You know, what we're doing is just raw and just, oh, there's one. You know, oh, let's go knock on door if it's uncuffed or whatever. But I listen. I used to have cameras back in the day. The damn things would never work when I wanted them to work, and it's almost, if you have a bunch of ground and you want to be consistently, knowing what's out there, you'd be crazy not to run cameras. I'm not saying like me, obviously I don't run them on Whitetail Adrenaline and stuff like that. Because the style doesn't, we're going raw into the public. I'm not going to go set a bunch of cameras out in the public. It doesn't matter. I'm hunting until he looks good. Let's go kill his ass. You know what I mean? It kind of just, it doesn't work how we hunt. But if I had a bunch of ground, I would have me, half a dozen of them things going to my phone. Okay, I would definitely not want to know what's out there, but that ain't how I roll.
So when you started hunting, like, you say like our style of hunting. I've listened to you talk on a couple other podcasts and things like that, and that's not how you started hunting, right? Like you were.
I hunted. I would hunt nosebleed stuff. I never really ever did have a good track of ground, but I'm good at calling them in. So I felt like if I could see them, I can potentially get a shot at them is how I kind of felt. So as long as I'm close to the good stuff, I would knock on doors back when I was younger. Just get permission, even if it was something that butted up to something good, a little tip of a draw that went on. A lot of the neighboring guys probably hated me because if I seen them, I'd be calling their ass up, up onto the piece where I had permission. But yeah, that's what I grew up doing is tree stand hunting. I'd run a lone wolf. I had a couple lone wolves. I run muddy stuff now. Now GCM, I get hooked up with a good deal now. So if I do that, I set up that stuff for my chick, Jess. She's an amazing outdoorsman. She's starting to get it. She's had some unfortunate stuff but she's gonna consistently kill some big bucks here. It's just a lot of opportunities messed up for the last 3 or 4 years. But man, she's had world class deer on her. If she gets an arrow in one, they're gonna be big. I still get to kind of share, like her. She's not going to go out and crawling and sneaking on a big buck. It's just there's too many variables that go on with that. But I love getting her set up on some private and hang a couple tree stands for her. And, she texts me when she's seeing something. It's fun. So I still get to kind of have a little bit of that old school style of hunting that I used to do through her,
And I think I heard you say one time, and like when we watch like the Whitetail Adrenaline stuff, there's a lot of like river bottom or these like strip, like narrow type pieces. Like what is your tactic, or like what's the idea like behind that?
Just like little skinny strips. What do you mean? Like different spots that I've talked about that I like to hunt?
Well, even watching you hunt, like it seems like you kind of gravitate towards, and you kind of do a pretty good job of breaking them down. And like when you're like, there's one like where guys are doing the deer drive, and you're like, hey man, this is like what's got to happen. Like we need to stay over here, and these deer, and look, they're doing exactly like that. We can talk about it whenever, but that big buck in Kansas was kind of like on the same little thing where you kind of like, we can't get any further in here. We got to be.
Yeah, that deal, I mean, pretty much if I can find a spot that is, let's say, that deal was a river bottom, and, I had trees that went out to, less than 100 yards out to the one end and 50 yards out. I started all the way on the downwind side of it and got up in there. Just, you kind of feel that like, man, if I get any closer, I'm going to jump something. You kind of get that little weird feeling. And I'd get to that part. And obviously the wind wasn't blowing at all, hardly. So, but people thinking them damn deer can hear you from a long ways away. I mean, they can, but they just, if it ain't in their zone, a lot of times they're not coming. So on that hunt, I actually got up in there and did a rattling session, waited about 5 to 10 minutes, and I can see 100% everything if they're coming. You know what I mean? It wasn't like one sneaking behind me unless one come cruising across the road and came in where we came in. So I was really zoned in on out in front of me, and, you know, out in there is where I was rattling. Then once I got done with that and I didn't really see any activity, then I moved forward. But I got up in there just to where it was like, ugh, we might, you know, we might have bumped something. We didn't hear nothing blow, but it's on the verge of getting into trouble in there. And that's when we set up. And I mean, I rattled for a little while. I did like a couple sessions. You know, I waited 10 minutes before I grabbed my dumbass phone out of my pocket and pulled up Onyx to see where I wanted to go next. I'm in the middle of a hunt. Like, what am I doing? You know, if I wouldn't have done that, I know for a fact we would have killed that deer. It would have came right in the decoy. He seen the decoy. He seen me move my head looking down for my pocket. And I looked up and spotted him. Well, you know, obviously he just came into a rattling sequence. He sees the decoy. Where's the other buck? I mean, they ain't stupid. They're looking for the other deer that he was just fighting with. He sees my head move up through the brush, and now he's focused on my position. And it just, golly, it was a jungle gym, dude. I was so pissed. And I knew when I seen him, I was like, this is the biggest mess up of my life, man. That deer, I would have killed that deer. He would have came right in there, slam dunk, 20 yards. It would have been the biggest non-typical ever killed on public ground on film. I mean, I think. I mean, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It should have been crazy because I think Jared's typical is the biggest typical ever killed on public ground on film. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been crazy. We would have got lucky as shit. But it's all good. It didn't work out. It still haunts me. Thank you for bringing it up. But
well, I was trying to tiptoe around it. You know,
no, it's all good. It needs to be brought up and made fun of. I mean, you can't be on your phones when you're out in the middle of a hunt. It's different if you're in a tree stand. That's you can get away with that shit, but not on the ground level. Ain't happening.
Adam did
and I
that
didn't know that deer was there either. But I just had the spot was too good from the year before. I had to get in there and bebop around.
Which time?
The one we're turkey hunting.
Oh,
and we got the birds coming in right next, and next thing you know, I think you're on like Marco Polo.
Yeah, I was like live streaming it, but turkeys to me are like, you know, I don't know a person who is like, man, I've been looking for this 6-year-old turkey, like he's got a drop spur, like this is gonna be, you know,
you can regroup from a turkey pretty easy.
Yeah,
it still pisses me off when I mess one up though.
Yeah, they're literally like 3 yards
for me to John away
from our and all of a sudden I'm like, they're right here, and he's like, he's got his phone in his hand, and then he drops it. It's like tink. Like, we're in a blind, you know?
They gobble.
No, they ran away.
Oh, there was a dozen turkeys around us gobbling that morning. We were laughing. I missed a turkey at 7 yards with a longbow. Like,
oh God,
it's airballed.
Hey, I can't. You won't even want to know how many turkeys I've missed. You know, trying to kill them up close. You know, I started that turkey reaping stuff, and you know, they're you know, a barrel length away. I mean, your pattern's that big. I mean, that turkey he bebops you that quick, and you know, I mean, you miss. I mean, you just got almost when they're that close, you got to shoot them in the bot. You know, double lung them. You know.
So, like, one of the things, and I mean, you kind of went into it there, but one of the things I think that you do really well, and is like you have fun, right? I think a lot of people forget about that aspect of it, but then like B is like there's multiple hunts where you have like just this tremendous amount of like patience, like the buck you killed in the canoe there, and then there was another one where you guys seemed like you were laying on the bank of the ditch for like ever.
Oh,
like,
yeah, nightmare.
And
well, you just go ahead.
I was say like for regular guys, I think that's one thing that like gets overlooked is like the patience. Like, how do you, like, where is your mind at like when you're there? Because I feel like everybody wants to make that one more little move and then you mess
Yeah.
it up. They don't, because I certainly don't have that.
Yeah. I mean, trust me, I've messed up a lot of situations. You just kind of learn trial and error, and you kind of get in there. I get so comfortable a lot of times where I just know that I need to get there, and that's game over. Or like I can, let's say like that one in the canoe buck here, what would it be? Resurgence? I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know all the names, but anyway, Resurgence. That big buck. I mean, I could have pushed the limit that night when I first seen him, but I knew that he just found that doe, and he's going to be in that area. I didn't see anybody else around there that's seen him. We could have forced it and tried to get a shot right there last minute, and da 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 da. And I just knew, he's going to be there in the morning with that doe, and because the reason he had all them satellite bucks, and he had her pretty much pinned up against that little river, and I just knew that he was going to be occupied all night trying to keep her there, and she just come in. So it's like, hey, we got a day or two to make this happen. Let's find the right circumstance, and I've dreamed to catch a deer in that spot anyway. It was almost like a dream come true on that deer. Like I've drove by there so many times. Man, I'd love to get one caught up in there. You know what I mean? Finally, I catch a big bastard in there, and that worked out. But I get in there, and if I get up in on a big buck, I mean, my mind, I don't know. I wasn't very good in school, but I feel like my mind goes 100 mile an hour, and I try to always. My main thing with my success for deer hunting, I think, is that I go through my mind. I go through all the things that could mess the hunt up really quick. Like I kind of like try to delete all the shit that can mess up the hunt. You know what I'm saying? That might be hard to kind of. I ain't really saying it correctly, probably, but like when I'm in on an animal, I try to think of where he's going to be or where I need to get to guarantee get that shot, but not get too close. And if he gets up, where am I going to shoot? I already try to have all this stuff planned in my head before it happens. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
And it works out. I mean, it works out sometimes, but if you kind of just get in there, oh man, he's right there, but then you're not thinking like if he does get up, where are you going to shoot him exactly? Or do I need to call at him right now? Or do I just sit here and wait? I mean, if he stands up, is it too thick? Do I need to get in a position where he does stand up that I can get a shot when he does? Or, all that kind of and it don't always work out. I mean, I've messed up enough hunting in my time that I kind of know what to do and what not to do. Most of the day, I feel confident in it, and that's the key is feeling confident. But me and Jared talk about it all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've been seconds out of the game and where, 2 steps before when I was over here debating on how I wanted to do, if I would have just went 5 to 10 seconds before that, instead of sitting there and hee-hawing around and made the move that I wanted to do when my instinct wanted to go, I would have killed the animal. He got up before I got there, and those few seconds, I would have had the opportunity. So timing's crazy, man, that game.
One of the things I talked with like Zach from the Hunting Public about, and I feel like you guys are like each other's spirit animal, right? Like you do it on DVD, he does it on YouTube, but similar style, similar, like, if I see a deer, I can kill him. You have that like confidence, that mindset. How do you, like, when something goes horribly wrong, how do you regroup? Where do you, like, for someone who doesn't have that confidence or doesn't get 10 chances a year, right? It's you live in this place where you think that was my one chance. Like how does your mindset?
Man, that's a tough one because I mean, you don't get opportunities at big deer all the time. I mean, especially hunting public. I mean, I go a month hunting and maybe have 1 or 2 opportunities, and you got to make shit happen when you see them. And so you try to make that opportunity the best you can. But I'm trying to kill a really big one. Or I'm not saying that I won't kill. Like if I see a big 140s 8-pointer, I'm killing him, man. He's a beautiful animal. And it depends. If I'm seeing a bunch of bigger ones, then I'm not gonna just go shoot that. But I would be happy with a big 8-pointer. But if I mess up one, man, trust me, it tears me up. I mean, or if I, don't get the opportunity, or I should have moved in on the animal and I was waiting around to see what he did. And, that shit that's part of the game though. I mean, it stresses me out no matter what. Trust me. I don't just shake it off. I still think about it all the time, but you just got to get back in the jungle and get after it, because you ain't going to kill. I mean, every chance that you mess up is a chance closer it's going to happen to where it's going to work out. That's a fact,
So was there a
I hope
point
that
like,
answers your question. I kind of,
yeah, no,
That answers it. I mean,
yeah. So was there like a point in your like hunting career that you can look back on, and because I was just talking to somebody else about this, like where you turned the corner, where you're like right there, and then like I realized like, I can do this
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was pretty. I'm gonna say, I don't know, man. It was when I was pretty young. I kind of just got really good at reading the deer on like when to call, and he's headed that way. Kind of figuring out when I need to call before he got too far downwind to me and stuff like that. Like I learned at a really young age. The hunting on the ground, it took me maybe a season to kind of like, okay, I need to be a little more aggressive, on it. But it I don't know, it happened pretty quick. I mean, I don't know. Growing up bow hunting and stuff like that, I feel like I made a lot of the right decisions calling, and by doing, messing up situations, it just made me better. And I got a good instinct with it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, the show is predicated on I'm the world's worst bow hunter, right? So like all the mistakes, all the everything, like it's just it always. I mean, this year on opening day for bow season here in Michigan, I seen 11 bucks, and I set up for one thing to happen, and I knew what the deer were going to do. I was on the ground because I knew nobody else was going to be able to get in there, and
Yeah.
all these deer coming, and I'm watching these two little puke bucks sparring
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
right. You know this 100%, like right across the property line where
Yeah.
So I'm just there for the viewing at this point. I hear some rattling behind me, and I think it's another hunter. I turn around 25 yards. There's 3 bucks like this.
Nice.
And they're doing exactly what I thought. And we saw each other at the exact same time because I was paying attention to these bucks, just blow it,
There's nothing
And
you can do about that, man. I mean, it's
oh yeah, but it was just a hell of a day. But that's the thing is like for us in this show, like everybody's trying to learn, right? So this isn't like, hey man, John and I are the best bow hunters, and you got to listen to our show for all the tips. No. We're trying to get the information so that we can get better and fully understanding that like all the mistakes that led you to be able to kill these big bucks consistently are like things we need to get people to say, I made that mistake too. And it happens to everybody, right?
just got to learn how to use that and learn from the mistakes, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you, I mean, the way I hunt now, obviously Whitetail Adrenaline, I wear tennis shoes now. I mean, I'm warm, I'm in the vehicle. To hunt the way we hunt, which is hunting public ground on the ground like that, you gotta cover some serious ground. I can't tell you how many hundreds of miles I've drove looking at private and public and not even see a shooter. And I'm looking at, I mean, hundreds and thousands of acres of ground and don't even catch one. So looking back at how I used to hunt, you're in a little section. I mean, there might not even be a damn buck, a good buck in that whole section, and you're sitting there, So I love this style because I can cover ground. I don't get out of that damn vehicle unless I want to do a little rattle set or I see a big one. Like it's almost like I'm going after an animal I know is there, and that's a good feeling. If I could spot like this year, I mean, I didn't leave the damn vid. I mean, we went and did some rattle sets, and don't get me wrong, I have fun doing that. It's kind of that's an exciting deal where I can get out and get in the boat and drive in up on a spot, walk in and do a rattle set, and one come running in. I don't think I've shot one doing that yet, but I've had some close encounters, with just younger bucks that one of these times will kill a big one on the ground like that. But I have hunting out of the vehicle. like that and glassing and covering a lot of acreage and, getting on those high spots and looking and it makes it to where you're deleting a lot of area real fast. Cause and like I said, there's nothing more confident than going after a deer. You can see him right now, or you just seen him go into a deal. Cause now you're going after a deer that he's big enough that you want him, first of all, and you're where he's at. There's no like, is there a big one over there? You're hunting a deer that could possibly not be there. So I love that shit, man. That's my favorite thing to do.
Kind of reminds me of elk hunting. Like when we went out elk hunting after we got back, like, man, this whitetail hunt in Michigan sucks. Like, I don't want to go sit in a tree stand anymore.
I mean, I'm kind of listen, it's not all easy peasy like people think, though. I mean, I'm driving 300 miles a day a lot of times, and you don't even see a dang, even close to a shooter, or you know what I mean? And that's on private and public. So it's like, it takes a lot of time, but every day closer, every hour you're looking is closer to the time you are going to have an opportunity to animal. And it usually works out, man. It usually works out to where you're going to find a buck and you're going to have an opportunity. And then that's when all that, all the mess ups through all the years that you've had, let's make this happen now. And you try to make the right moves in that moment, because you don't get them very often.
So when you're doing this style hunting, is it throughout the whole season, or is there a better part? Like, what's like?
Yeah, I mean, I usually pick a month, just because December is a big month for me for my artwork. I got a Christmas orders and stuff so pretty much the whole month of December I got to be painting. I pick from about Halloween to Thanksgiving is kind of my time frame to hunt. I feel like before that you can probably spot some more deer doing stuff that are a lot patternable. Obviously, October, September, you see a big one there, he's probably going to be there the next day, and that's how a lot of guys kill those big giants in velvet or right out of velvet, because they're real patternable then. I got so many things going on. I mean, that's my tournament fishing during that time frame, and I never really early season hunt. One of these times I'll do an early season hunt if it works out in my time, but the month of November is pretty much the only time I really get the deer hunt, which is the best time. Late October, November. I pretty much, so to tell you this, I actually start out my season from about, we'll say Halloween or the 25th of October on to about the 5th to 6th of November is kind of when I like going in and doing my rattle sessions and stuff like that, because that's when they're aggressive with the calling and everything. And then after that, let's try to find a big one with a doe and get in and kill him, try to get one spotted that way.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I'm like, because the calling things, like, I mean, yeah, they're sparring, doing a little bit of stuff early season, but it's like, is that really bringing them in? It's more like getting a pre-rut and then.
I feel like, I mean, there's been times back in the day, I remember when I was tree stand hunting, there's been multiple times where I've called, 15 to 25 bucks in, like different bucks. Some of the pukes might have been the same ones, but it was crazy. And a lot of times those times when I called them in, I didn't even see a shooter. They were 120, 130s were the biggest, which, I blessed to live here in Iowa. You don't want to really shoot one like that unless you're really happy with it. You know what I'm saying? You can pass deer like that to wait. And, I miss those days out of the tree stand though too. Don't be fooled. If I can get a piece of ground bought by where my cabin is, I'll have me a little landowner tag, slide back in there, and we'll do a little tree stand hunting for sure.
So what tips do you have for guys like for calling for like the rattling sequences? Like what is your go-to? Like where do you want to be set up? And like how long? Because I heard you talk about that. Like you said earlier, like you waited 10 minutes, all the stuff.
Yeah, I feel like 10 minutes, 15 minutes is about as long as you want to be. I mean, if one's coming, he heard you, he's coming. I like to pick spots that are, when you get set up, you're hid, because we're talking about on the ground here. You can't just go in there and let's just start because he comes in. Is he going to see you? You got your, where are you at? Where are you positioned? So you almost want to make it to where you're set up for when he comes in, you're hid. Obviously, you got a big tree, or you're behind a big tree or a crotch, or you're behind there. And when you rattle, you want to have that bow ready to go. Because I mean, how many times have you been rattling and all of a sudden one's there while you got the horns in your hand? And on the ground, that shit, you don't got no time to set the horns down and grab the bow. You know what I'm saying? So you got to kind of have that stuff planned up. Sometimes I'll bring a little hook and hang my bow up, so it's right there. So when I get done hanging or rattling, I'm boom, and I'm already on the bow or whatever. But I like finding spots that are a little bit open where they have to come in the open. Almost if you can find an area where it's real thick and then there's a little open gap and then you're in some thick shit. So they want to come out to the edge of it. Because if it's too thick, you just go right in there. I mean, you ain't going to get a shot at them if it's too thick because they're, you know what I mean? They're going to be on top of you. And it just you got to have the setup is key. I mean, I've had some lot of shitty setups, but I've had a lot of good ones too, to where, it's a lot of planning. I mean, I rattle at a lot of the same spots I do year after year after year, because it's perfect. The setup's perfect and you get in there and you're confident. But yeah,
How much
go ahead.
How much does that confidence play into like your hunting style?
The confidence?
Yeah.
I mean, I go in feeling like I'm going to kill one every damn time I go in, I do feel I'm very confident. I'm very positive when it comes to hunting. I mean, you might, I've watched some of the DVDs after Jared's film. Like, God, dude, I seem like I'm damn miserable or stressed out of my mind. I am stressed, but it's a good stress. You know what I'm saying? There's two different kinds of stress. There's stress that is like a miserable stress, and there's a stress that's just I'm just reacting to the moment, whether I messed up or it's just a good stress. That's what we live. I mean, if you don't get stressed out deer hunting, you're crazy, man. That's the part of the adrenaline. Just getting stressed. I mean, shit. That's what drives me.
I love that. I think, and that's like that type 1, type 2 fun, right? Like I've got one brother. I got two brothers. One brother who wants to go sit in ladder stand, and he wants to just not be at work. Like he's not out there to be stressed.
Yeah.
And then my other brothers, goes out to South Dakota, spot and stalk, hunts all over, hunts the same way that I do, that we do. And, there's so many times you're like, God, why did I do, all the things, multiple times, get back to the truck, dump your boots out, and then water up to your waist. Like, why do we do this stuff? And those are the most memorable ones. And I feel like that's when you're really, doing what you love, because you have to love it to put yourself in those situations.
100%, man. I've said this, I've talked to different people, and like, when I was hunting out tree stands, when I was all like psycho about it and wanting to hunt a certain deer, all that, I just never, it took the fun away from me because I had the other people that were trying to get the same permission. I didn't ever have no big leases or nothing. And so that just got to where I'd go in to set and there'd be another tree stand 20 yards away from mine. And I'm just like, that shit I just got sick of that. It wasn't fun for me. Now I get to hunt where everybody else can hunt. If I see another hunter, hey, have you been seeing any? Hey, I hope you guys are good luck to you guys. It's almost like a damn, you can't, there's no reason. There's no reason to be stressed or, pissed off or anything because it's public, man. It's great. It's almost like, I'm just a free spirit out there now. Just go with the flow, man. I ain't getting out of that vehicle until I see a big buck. You're going to shit when you see these two hunts that I did this year. It's crazy, man. It was one of those visions that I wanted to kill both of my bucks with the decoy, slam dunk, 10 yards and in, and it worked out. This footage is going to be unbelievable, man. I've never seen anything like it. It's crazy.
So when you're talking about that, is that the uncuffed?
No, there's so much footage, man. It's crazy. Jared's got so much stuff. So the uncuffed is there's some good hunts on that. You're gonna love that. That's a great DVD. Lot of cool stuff on there. I kill a pretty big one on there. You'll just have to. I don't want to spoil it, but that was a fun. That's gonna be a good DVD. And Jared it's gonna be worth the wait, man. I mean, he is. he's a perfectionist, and he does not want a product to go out half-ass. It's it's a big production. I mean, it's hours and hours and hours of footage everybody's going to be getting, and then he's already got the stuff from not last year but the year before getting in the works, and then it's gonna be awesome, man. He's gonna start pumping it out pretty quick. Everybody's gonna be like, there's a lot of people are bummed right now because they haven't got their DVDs yet, but once they get this and everything that else is going to be happening, it's going to be good.
So it sounds like you've done some now back to private land or permission hunting and then back to public. Like, can you talk about like the differences there? Like as far as like how did it make you feel, or was it different style or whatever?
I think it feels. I think I never. I mean, it feels good. I mean, I love old school knocking. Obviously, uncuffed. If I see a deer on an area that I'm not doing it on my home area. I mean, I can get permission and everywhere. I know all the farmers, da 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 da. So I don't uncuff. I ain't doing it there. I'm just hunting strictly public. But if I get out in a different area in Kansas or wherever I'm at, and I see a big one, I mean, obviously, I'll preferably want to kill one on public just because that's what we're doing and trying to showcase. But if I see a big one, I mean, Daddy's knocking on the door. I mean, I'm gonna, hey, and I ain't telling them. Let me tell you that. Let me give you a little trick of the trade here. You want to go doing the knocking on the door stuff? Don't be going up there and say, "Hey, man, you got a big ass buck out here. Do you care if I go sneak up on there and try to shoot him?" You say, "Hey, man, I'm just bowhunting. I've had a tough season. I've been seeing a few deer here and there running around out there. Do you care if I go hunt?" You don't have to tell them you're getting ready to go kill a booner. Because they'll be like, "Hey, my grandson's got a tag. Hey, no, I don't. Yeah, you leave. I'm going to call my grandson to have go." And then you just ruin the whole deal. So deer. You don't say buck. You don't say duh. Just deer. So you don't feel guilty, when you do go killing that big bastard. But yeah, that's the key. Don't be getting all excited and say, "Man, you got a big buck. You care if I sneak up on him out here?" No, that ain't going to fly. Because they just think, "Oh man, he's gonna go out and try to sneak up on a deer. Good luck." They're just laughing inside, and then they'll be driving down the road and you'll be dragging that big bastard out of the field. So,
So
I love it.
So from that like side of it, from like the old adage, right? Like it's way easier to kill deer on private land, public so much harder, all this stuff. Like now having done it at your level on both, like what do you say to that? Are the deer easier to kill on private?
I mean, I'm not gonna say this, and there'll probably be people that get, be mad at me for saying this or whatever, but it's another level on public. A lot of times you'll get a buck you'll get another buck that comes in from the private, and then they're a little bit more stupid, but they're not. None of them are stupid. Big mature deer, I don't give a shit if it's on private or public, they're still big bucks. But there is ground that is, managed, and they never get no pressure. I mean, those deer are going to be easier to kill. I don't give a shit who it is, where it is. They're going to be easier to hunt. I feel, it's just more of accomplishment. I think killing one on private or on public or knock on door permission and stuff like that than a big old managed property. I got buddies that do it and they've killed some giants, but I mean, don't go bragging to me about it because trust me, it's a lot easier than going and hunting the way we're hunting. And you know what I mean? I just don't like people that go, "Man, I killed 2 180s every year out here on my piece." Well, okay. Let me go in there and I'll guarantee you we'll kill some big bucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't like people that brag about this, they own this 1,000 acres and they're going in and, they got all these giant deer. Well, yeah, I mean, give me a break. I mean, yeah, it is way easier. You can get it dialed in. I mean, I just don't like people that brag about it. You know what I mean? Like, trust me, it's a lot easier. I'm not going to tell it to them. And everybody hunts their own ways. And I don't go bragging saying I kill my deer on public. I mean, I do it because I love it. And I think it's what turns me on. It's what gives me that high as an accomplishment for my own self, But I mean, everybody's got their own way of doing things. So
So for your style of hunting, like outside of like locating a deer and getting eyes on one, like what are the other biggest challenges? I mean, you watch the videos and it's, you know, coyotes or deer, other seems maybe more like other deer, but cars
Yeah.
driving by, like that
Oh,
seems to be
dude,
like
I
the
can't tell
worst.
you, dude. I am like on punk TV, man. Every time I go into a hunt, all of a sudden, I ain't seen a vehicle all damn day, and all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of a stalk, and here comes a vehicle and stops, and they're setting up a picnic or something along the road. It's like just all kinds of this silly stuff always happens to me, and it's just something that God does to just get me, just to see what I can take. I feel, I feel like I'm on big buck punk TV every time I go on a hunt, but it's just
So,
part of the game. Now it's like I'll pretty much be in a hunt now. I'll guarantee you there'll be somebody stop up here and lollygagging around, changing a tire right here when I'm in the middle. It's just almost like a guaranteed something like that's going to happen now. So I'm just ready for it. I would just laugh and smile now. It's just part of the. It wouldn't be normal.
without that or broken down vans, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I need a new van. Jared needs to get me a new van by next season because I ain't hunting out of this truck and stuff like that. I mean, you just can't be incognito. Which everybody now sees a van, they're like, oh, they're hunting. Van's the deal, man. Front wheel drive van, hunting out of a van, front wheel drive. I go places where a truck can't go, man. I'm telling you, as long as it ain't too deep of mud or too deep of snow, as long as that bottom of that vehicle is cleared, minivan. If you threw some wild countries on the front of a minivan or some chains, she going everywhere she wants, and she's comfortable. Your shit's dry, your bow's in there, your decoys in there, camera equipment's dry. You ain't having to get up in the back of a topper and dust filled. And minivan's the deal.
So prior to the Whitetail Adrenaline and hunting with Jared, believed it? Would you have believed you saying that? Would you have said, "Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
van's
I
the
hunted.
shit"?
Well, obviously I had a truck. I had an old '92. I mean, I'm 100% absolutely hate loud trucks. you know, Loud muffler, more dead. You just think about it, man. How many times you been in your tree stand, all of a sudden you hear that big loud ass truck, you can hear him all the way for 2-3 miles, and then he stops. I mean, big bucks ain't stupid, man. They can hear that stuff. So I'm into flow or incognito exhaust, brand new truck. Yeah, don't be throwing no flow masters on my shit because that stuff just ruins the hunt, man. You don't even know in big diesel trucks. It's cool. Diesels are cool, but if you're wanting to hunt big deer, I'd be, you can kill them with it, but delete that stuff. I'd be hunting out of a car or minivan or whatever. But I have a buddy. What you're kind of getting at is I had a buddy Tim Myers, and we hunted out of his minivan for years because we'd have setups where we'd have our lone wolf setups where he would go one way and I would go the other way on the property, and we'd ride there together in his minivan, silent but violent, park that thing, and oh yeah, it was. I've been hunting out a minivan before Whitetail Adrenaline, not my own, my buddies, but
It's like
he would always drive.
my dad used to have them old Astro vans that were like all wheel drive. That thing like,
Ooh, that would be another level there.
oh
That
man,
would be another level.
that was like his hunting machine.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
He always had, like, he got an Astro van and like he had like three more. Like his last vehicle was an Astro van.
Well, everybody thinks they got to have a box. You don't just, you can throw a mat back there, and if you kill a deer, you worry about the details when you kill the big bastard. You can get him on top, or you can have one of those rubber mats in there, and you'll figure it out. But until that point, I love the van. I mean, you can crawl in there and take a nap. I mean, you ain't doing that in a truck comfortably.
Speaking of that's one of the things earlier when you were talking about driving 300 miles, in a day. Like, logistically, like, how do you plan for a hunt like that? Like, where are you staying? How because we've all done it for, you go out of state, you're up at 2-3 in the morning, and you're driving around to either to the area that you're hunting so you can get in there before. I mean, you can do that a little bit better because you're in the vehicle. You want to be at a spot where you can glass when the sun comes up. But then, like, when the sun goes down, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, when the way me and Jared do it with driving around and everything like that, I try not to be anywhere real too early because if it's dark, you don't know what's out there. It could be a big one right there where you're getting ready to park, and then he run and now he's goofed up and da 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 da. So I like to show up on the spot when it's light enough that I can still see, 200-300 yards out in the field or whatever, and then I can park and glass, and that's a very good key. That's one of our little deals that we believe in big time, is you don't want to be going and pulling up next to a spot where you're glassing where there could be a big buck right there and seeing you just park. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So we definitely, play that. But I usually there's a route, there's an area where we've been seeing more deer, or a lot of, right when we show up on a place, we're cruising, trying to hit as much stuff as we can to try to get an eye on a big one. Then once you get an eye on a big one, ooh, wow, we know a big one's there now. So let's give a little more time in this area. But we like to cover a ton of ground. It's like fishing, man. It's like deer hunting and fishing are a lot alike when it comes to the style, because I'm side scanning for a school of fish, and I ain't gonna fish if there's no. I mean, nowadays I can see if there's fish there, on my side scan or on my Mega Live or whatever. I mean, you can see if there's fish there. If there ain't no fish there, I ain't fishing there. If there ain't no deer there, I ain't hunting there. So I cruise until I get my vision. Those eyes don't lie. You know what I mean? You get your eye on a big one, he's there. So I like to cover as much ground until I okay, well, this area I seen a couple decent ones there. This area had a big one. So then you get your focus and your confidence. So when you go to that spot and you're hunting and you're confident, oh, well, there's a big one there. I seen a big one there. And that's the deal, man. I mean, it ruined me doing it this way, because I don't like getting out of that, which it's almost kind of made me not lazy, but it's very productive if you do it the right ways.
I was going to say efficient, right?
Efficient, very efficient. It's your mind, and you're glassing nonstop all day. I mean, it wears you out. I mean, I feel like, a lot of guys go do it. I mean, it's tough to do it more in a week, man. You'd be freaking out because you're mentally drained. You're just glassing, especially if you ain't seeing none. I mean, I've seen multiple guys out on public where we've been, and they've been there for 3 or 4 days, and they just leave because they just ain't seeing nothing, and they just get unconfident. You know what I mean? I've been through the roller coaster, and you just there's going to be those lows, and you got to have it in your head where you're guaranteed it's going to happen. You just got to get through that little slump, and all of a sudden there's that big bastard sitting out there on a 1/4-mile fence line with a doe with a ditch going up to it, and it's time to go in and kill it. And you go, and it works out. Then all that time, all them days and couple weeks of driving around like a idiot, you think you're crazy when you're doing it half the time. And then wow, we did this on purpose. You know what I mean? It all works out.
So how much time do you give one of the, when you say if guys have watched any of the Whitetail Adrenaline, you go out there and you see this deer and you're like, is that the deer from yesterday? Is that the deer from 2 days ago? Is that this deer? And then all of a sudden you don't see them anymore. Like, how do you, I mean, the one deer that we won't talk about, is kind of an example of that. Like, you knew there was a big one there, and then you couldn't really put eyes on him. You knew he was in the area here or there, but how much time do you give it? And I mean
well, I have a month to hunt. A lot of guys, they got a little week gap that they got to make something happen. You don't want to fall in love with a deer too much, especially on public. If you see him, that's great, but it depends on, are you willing to sacrifice a tag to wait for that animal that the odds are you're not going to probably kill it. So do you want to move? You got to make yourself move on real quick. And there's been times where I got hung up on a deer for 3 or 4 days, didn't see him. And it's time. As bad as I want to just wait, it's time to move on, and you'll kind of get that gut instinct when it's time. You'll kind of feel it. We're out there for a long time. We're able to hunt a little more than a lot of people too. A lot of guys only got a 5 to 7 day gap away from work and stuff like that. And you got to make some stuff happen. You cannot fall in love with a deer when that's going down, because if you want to kill one, or maybe it doesn't matter to you that you even kill one. Like, there's been times where I'm like, I don't even care to kill one unless it's a big one. I've been in just every season's different for me, but if you just you gotta you'll get that little instinct where, okay, he's probably not around. It's time to move on. But I know people that got hung up on deer and it was just a dream. You're just dreaming about it now, you know. Just because you see him doesn't mean you can kill him always. But
So for you, like you guys run into a lot of guys out there kind of doing the same thing, and
yeah,
the you mentioned it, the vans kind of give you away at this point, and people know who you are, and they see like
yeah,
what's going on, and then they, much like we do with the hunting beast or the hunting public guys, or you're watching these guys, you're trying to learn, you're trying to do this. Where do you think, when you're out there seeing these guys trying to do the same stuff that you are, like what are the biggest mistakes that you see guys do?
ugh. Well, there's different things. Like a lot of times guys will stop and look at it. They'll see a buck and they'll stop and look at it. And then the deer, how many times have you went and you looked at a buck and you stop and you're looking at him and then all of a sudden, he's cool for a second and, oh, okay, he knows he's being watched and he takes off running. Now he's attention's up and it's now he's in security mode. So you almost got to, we do a lot of the, hey, hold the wheel and I'm glassing, you know what I mean? Because as soon as you stop, that deer, you know,
Puts them on alert.
you damn right. So I've seen that. I think there's a lot of guys that I think there's a lot of times where they'll see a deer in the wide open and they don't feel confident moving in on it because it's in the wide open. There's no trees, there's no ditch. You don't always need all that. Just a little bit of a lip to get you close enough. And he's looking the other way. You pop that damn decoy up and he look back. Oh, what's this punk doing? And then, the deal with the decoy, you can't just go walking in at him with the decoy like a turkey, because that you're moving, your deer's body language, they rely, their ears and their body language is so huge and they can see that shit from a quarter mile away, really good. So you can't just go taking a decoy and go walking at a big buck. You gotta sneak into position downwind and get close enough to where that deer, to where you can get here. Actually, let's just back up here. Let me tell you the number one key when killing big deer with its decoy is, let's say you got a buck and he's got a doe right there, and all of a sudden there's a little satellite buck over there. How many times have you guys seen to where that buck, once that little satellite buck will come sneaking in, and he'll all of a sudden it'll get too close, and the big buck, he'll run that little bastard off, and then he'll kind of hang out over there, and he'll want to come creeping back. Well, if you can figure out that distance where, let's say it's 50 yards, where that little buck gets in within 50 yards of his doe, and all of a sudden that big buck, if you can get in with that amount of distance, find that little happy medium where he doesn't like anything else close to that doe within that distance, it's game over. Like, obviously, like with the decoy, I'll get in position. I will literally go downwind or, look at the lay of the land. You'll figure out how to get to the closest to that animal as you can. And you got that decoy and the wind's right. Hopefully, the wind's blowing a little bit where you're not making a bunch of noise and everything like that. Hopefully that's all into play. But like this year on the one of the big one in Kansas, I literally got in there within 70 yards, and that deer and doe were laying there, and that little puke buck was over there. Well, they were all looking straight away, and I told my cameraman, "Hey, get ready." I said, "I'm going to bring the decoy up, and as soon as he sees it, I know he's going to come in there." Because if you think about this, a lot of times another buck and a doe will run in on another buck and doe, and then that's how a lot of those fights start. It's not just a satellite buck coming in there. You know how many times you've seen a buck chasing a doe? They're running, all of a sudden they stop, and then there's another buck and a doe, and then that's a lot of time when that Wango Tango starts, the fight. So, but I was able to get in there within, 70 yards. They're not looking at me. Pop that dang decoy, get her staked in, and then I got the camera, made sure the cameraman was ready to where he was over the shoulder, grunted at the deer. He seen me, stood up, and come in like a string. I mean, they come in every time if you get that decoy set up right. Just as long as you ain't like going down the ditch and they see the decoy and they don't fly deer. Only turkeys. So I don't know if you gathered that, but that is, if you can get downwind and into the zone, that little comfort zone, and pop that decoy up and make sure you're ready, he's coming.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, like my buddy and I who were hunting that property where I seen all the bucks, like we talked about this, like if a decoy would work out there. I got a buddy here in Michigan that's killed 2 or 3 bucks like this on the same day, like
Mhm.
year after year here in Michigan with a decoy. But it just doesn't seem like Michigan is like a
No,
decoy
it's gonna be
state. Like,
tougher up. It's gonna be tougher up there. I mean, there's different places that are. Yeah, it's gonna be a different lingo. But if you catch one
well,
and he's in
but
the open,
the
you know,
scenario that you just said, like I was on this uh uh line of cedars, like right on this break, CRP field over here, like reprod or something over here is just like little like aspen timber, like real thin, like birch trees and
uh-huh.
not big timber. I had 2 or 3 big 8 points running does all over in that field, and then I had a 6 point and a 5 point and a little spike running around the base of my tree. But like that, and I had that one of those 8 points just working. I'm calling at them, I'm doing everything I can, and they don't care about me. But that buck stood over there at probably 80 yards for 15 minutes, just kind of like monitoring the situation. And I think in my
Yeah.
head, to your scenario there, I slide down out of that tree, pop up a decoy in that tree line, and he's going to come right over there. And
Oh yeah, he's coming. He's coming, and it don't always work out. But let me tell you something: you make stuff happen by doing that. Like if you don't, if you, it's just like you got a buck at 300-400 yards. He's going across there. You can't kill it, and you're in a tree stand. If you ain't got a set of rattling horns, you're wasting your time. That deer's gone. How else you gonna kill him? You got to call him in. So by having the horns or the decoy, every situation is different, but you kind of get. There's been times where I'm like, I got in a situation, I'm like, I'm not putting the decoy up. It just ain't the right vibe. But you learn those little vibes out there from messing up. But yeah, if you can get a decoy popped up when he's got a doe and been running satellite bucks off, they're all right behind that sucker. And it's just, let me tell you, you want to talk about a whole nother level of feeling when you got a deer coming in under 10 yards trying to fight you, and you're full draw right behind a decoy peekabooing around that thing, and he's coming around. You're gonna shit when you see this footage, man. It's so amazing. But
so,
what's crazy is I wanted to kill both of my deer this year, dedicating that because I've just been in kill mode. Like, oh, I'll sneak in, kill one, or just get a shot at a big one. I mean, I've been doing that for a few years, but I wanted to kill him behind the decoy. I mean, we're filming this stuff. Let's try to film the best stuff we can, and I don't think it's on a whole. It's amazing, man. I was like in shot, like holy shit, we just filmed it that way, exactly what I dreamed of filming it.
Kind of like
Cool.
my antelope hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Did that with the antelope.
Yeah.
Had the little umbrella pop-up decoy.
Oh yeah.
Crawled all the way up, and then there was the herd buck was just pushing off all these other little bucks. Actually, it was like National Geographic. Like they were fighting. He knocked the one right to the ground, was like pushing him. And then that one jumped up and he ran off like a mile. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh shit, he's gone. Then all of a sudden, here he come running back. That's when I got in, and I had just a doe decoy, but he was corralling all the does too.
You damn right. That they will. I pronghorn hunting is one of my favorite things to do, and they will. You find a big one. If you got a decoy situation, you get I got a little harem of decoys and stuff like that. The big one will always eventually come to try to fight you or get your does, which are the decoys.
Yep.
I got a couple tricky things that is amazing for antelope hunting, but it's almost a guarantee that you'll get them to come every time.
Oh, yeah. He
Just
came
like
in
you're
on a
saying,
string.
after a time, you're like, he probably ain't going to come. But then all of a sudden, boom, once he did his little serenoid and ran this buck off, corralled his does, okay, now it's time to come in and see what this punk's all about. And that's when he came in trying to fight you, and he didn't work out.
That was awesome.
It's crazy, man. You get this, it's just, you get that little, like, confidence once you kind of figure out how they go about things and how they're acting and stuff like that. And you get that, it's fun when it works out.
And you guys have some pretty elaborate decoys. Now,
Yeah.
for a regular guy, like if we were just gonna go off the shelf, like you're perusing through, like what would you recommend, or like Have you seen one that you're like, man, in a pinch, this is the one, that's the one I'd use?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you got to be stable. If the wind's blowing, you can't have something here blowing around. That's key. I mean, there's a lot of decoys out there, but I ain't really seen one that's, they don't make them like that because about the time we had already produced one, somebody's would get shot doing it. Turkey's different. Okay. Deer, you get guys that are just crazy. You don't want getting shot. You don't need no damn deer decoy out in front of you. So obviously we use it. We take the risk every time we're out there. We could get shot. That's our own damn risk. But yeah, they ain't some. I don't see that happening. People, you got to make your own to get the right thing, what you're wanting. Obviously, you can get a big full body, but it's just too big. You got to clang that thing around, look like a snare drum out there, and then prop that thing up. You got to be lean and mean. I mean, the decoy that we use is no heavier than our bow.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Because I would think just with the taxidermy on it or whatever, it would be.
Yeah, no, it's lean and mean. Yeah, it's got rabbit fur on that thing. It's got, Jared built that, the main one we use. We're gonna build a couple more for this next season, just so we got different guys. I mean, I'm a decoy hog. You ain't taking that damn thing. That's my arsenal, part of my arsenal. I feel naked if I don't have that thing ready to rock. So we're gonna have to build 2 or 3 more for the other guys. Because I'm very selfish when it comes to that decoy. I'm taking that thing. I ain't going if I don't have that decoy. I mean, you're wasting my time.
Speaking of decoys and stuff like that, like what was the story with that deer that you're just petting?
Oh, so that deer, what was crazy about that deer? We seen him a few days prior. You probably heard that in the video. He was down there with a doe, running wild, chasing does around, chasing bucks off. He was alert, and he ran from a vehicle at one point in time. He was on some private, and I mean, you seen him run in front of us and was trying to get the hell out of there in front of the vehicle. We got that footage. We were just trying to get some cool footage of him, and he was on private. So, let's just get some footage of him. And that deer, we didn't see him for like 3 or 4 days, and we kept looking because we were going to kill him if we had the opportunity. It's a beautiful animal, 160. Anyways, we didn't see him for a few days, and I was like, how do you? Bred that doe and moved on to the next girlfriend, next section over. I mean, it happens all the time. And then we were going up to a spot to glass, and all of a sudden I see this rack in the weeds over there, and I'm like, there he is, dude. He's got a doe bedded right there, da 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 da. And it was on the borderline of public and private, and it was like a little section that was like state ground. We were trying to call and get permission to see if it was public, that we could public access as long as we just got permission. It was one of those weird little areas. And anyway, I got up there and snuck up there and just to get some footage of him, right, because it was right by the road. And he just sitting there looking at me, and I'm like, something's wrong with him. He either got hit by a vehicle or whatever. But I don't know if it was on footage, but I threw my glove at him to try to jump him up, and my glove 10 ringed his damn brow tine. like a horseshoe, bud. I threw it and went poing. I'm like, what's the odds of that? I'm like, damn it, this is a brand new glove I got. I was pissed. But anyway, the deer was messed up. I think he had a head injury from fighting. Think about it. It happens more than you think. It just takes one hard hit with a tine up in there, and he's brain dead. Or he had EHD or something kicked in, and you'll see that a lot of times. You'll see those deer doing circles, and you'll see people, film these deer doing weird shit. Well, they got that, disease, and it's kicking in, and they just lose their mind, man. And I think that's what happened to that deer. And what sucks is I tried calling the DNR. Hey, give me a salvage tag. I'll kill him, and I'll clean him, and I'll boil his rack off. Give me a salvation tag. And they're like, no. It's like they weren't even going to do nothing with him anyway. They're just going to let him rot out there. I felt horrible, about that. But anyway, yeah, that deer was EHD or head injury for sure. But we had so many people, man, you're hunting a fenced in area. And I'm like, no, okay. What do you mean we're hunting a fenced in area? The damn deer's, he was just brain dead,
Well, when I saw the first thing, it popped up on Instagram or something, I'm like, it's one of them. Well, I thought it was one of the DNR deals, And I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
man,
no
that's a
shit, right?
really good one, right?
That's a real good one. Yeah, yeah. We knew people. We just wanted to. Posted it early like that just to see what kind of fuss we'd get, And, oh man, you wouldn't believe the people. Isn't it funny how people are? They just get man, you're hunting now we know you're hunting fenced in area, da 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 da. And, it's just like, oh my god, okay, whatever. And it's funny just to get a rise out of people.
Right. Well, I don't know if we need to keep you much longer here, man. We really appreciate you
Yeah,
getting the
I'm
time.
good, man. Whatever.
I got one question. Like, so what's your bow? What bow are you shooting? What's your setup?
My bow.
Yeah.
Well, I got a newer one now. I don't even know what the heck it is. Oh, hold on a second here. I got it's a Hoyt RX-7.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm shooting these bad boys. Look at these. These are the deal, bud. Silver flame, right there. Oh, 125, and we're shooting the grizzly sticks, the 240s. It's a heavy ass arrow, man. Penetration. Jared's got me dialed in here. I'm not a bow wizard. I'm not a tournament shot or anything like that. I mean, I grab my bow and shoot it a few times, and she's on, and I feel good. But yeah, Jared bought this bow for me, so I like it. I mean, I've owned every damn bow you can dream of, but the bow I had before this was I think it was an XR RX2 or something. It was like 3 years older than this or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I can't keep track of all the damn years and models. But it was the cams were bent on it. I went to go shoot. I'm like, what the hell's going on? This thing ain't shooting right. Well, the cams were bent. We didn't have time, so we just bought this one, and then we sent that other one back. Got it
Nice.
replaced. But yeah, it feels good to shoot something nice. I mean, to tell you the truth, I don't think you need the best bows out there. I'm not a good shot. I feel like I'm just a killer. You know what I mean? I just try to make shit happen. I don't need a damn brand new bow, but it feels nice to have a nice stuff, man. I appreciate Jared getting me dialed in there. Well, he just don't want no stupid shit happening when he's trying to, he's paying a guy to film me. He just, he needs good equipment. Just like a fishing rod, but yeah.
They have a guy out there with bent cams.
No, I mean, you know what I mean? Ain't no time for that.
So speaking of that, paying a guy to film you and all that stuff, like how does it go over when you drop one of those Franken cameras in the water?
Oh. Well, we didn't tell Jared for the whole time, just because, and he wasn't going to get mad at Matt anyway. I mean, it's just like Jared don't get mad at me. I have a relationship with Jared where he don't yell at me. He knows better, and I ain't going to yell at him, and he ain't yelling at Matt. I feel like he's the best. He's probably the best cameraman in the world. I'd put him up against anybody when it comes to hunting. He's Jim Shockey's, he's traveled all over the world with Jim Shockey, which Jim Shockey hunts a little bit different, but there's a lot of the same scenarios. He's just so good, dude. You don't have to worry. You don't even worry. I don't worry about him one bit. He's capturing it. He's hid. He's dialed in. There's nothing better than filming when you don't have to worry about the cameraman, which TC's amazing. He's getting dialed in. I mean, I'm very blessed to be able to. Jared puts the best guys on me to film, which is it's crazy. I'm pretty lucky to have that. It stressed me the hell out if I had to babysit. I mean, nothing against the camera. It just wouldn't work out. Can't do it. Not after big deer. It's just too many variables.
So we've been talking about all these, DVDs and your paintings and stuff like that. Like, so like lay it all out there. Like if people want to, get into what you're into. Like, how do they do that?
Well, I sell all my artwork through my social media, Chancy Walters Outdoors. Well, Chancy Walters on Instagram. I have Chancy Walters Outdoors on Facebook. I have Chancy Walters Wildlife Art, and then my personal page. Pretty much, if you just type my damn name in Instagram or social media, that's where I sell all my artwork. And I don't have a website. I feel like everything that I do, I don't really need a website for my artwork. It's all custom. They see my pictures on social media, and I book all my art orders from there. My fishing, I post everything about my fishing there, when my tournaments are and stuff like that. But I'm on the verge. I should have done this like 15 years ago, starting a YouTube channel for my fishing and stuff. I've been wanting to do it for years, and I'm such an idiot for not doing it back then when I wanted to do it. Just pretty much like Whitetail Adrenaline style, and I just want somebody to film me when I'm on my tournaments. I think it'd go pretty cool. I think it'd go well. I just need to. I got a camera. I got all the stuff to do it, and a lot of it I'm going to film myself. And I got a couple buddies that are pretty successful YouTube guys and everything like that. So I don't really know if I want to reach out, because they'll be like, nah, they'll think I'm wanting to do what they're doing. And I'm just like, I don't know what they'll think about it, but I'm going to do my own deal and just have fun with it. I'll probably edit most of the stuff myself, but I'm pretty excited about that. I think it'll help with my sponsors and stuff like that for my fishing stuff. I think it'd go good. Be like Whitetail Adrenaline, but the fishing side of things.
So I think, like, honestly, like no, like, bullshit, like, for guys that are listening, like, I think, a lot of them probably don't even know what a DVD is, but at the same time, like, I think you're one of the most, like, entertaining, like, personalities. Like, he's almost like the Bill Dance of whitetail hunting. Like, like, like,
well,
you get both
I'm
sides
glad
of
you
it.
think so, because I've watched some myself. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I just like it's I don't know, whatever. I'm glad people like watching this stuff, and I love what Jared's got going on. So I love being a part of it. I've had other people reach out to me and wanting me to film, and it just don't fit me, man. I love Whitetail Adrenaline. I love being a part of it, and I love Jared. He's one of my best friends, so I'm glad to be a part of what he's got going on, and I believe it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not out there trying, it's November 2nd, da 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 da. And I just go with the flow and film it how it is and have fun doing it, and don't try to hide shit. We film everything unscripted. We ain't doing no retakes or none of that. So that's how I like it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, I appreciate you taking the time with us tonight,
Oh
coming
man,
on
absolutely.
and talking.
I'm sorry it was a little later than normal than we expected. I looked at my phone. I'm like, oh my god, this kid's gonna hate me. Anyway, I feel horrible, but I'm glad it worked out, and I hope your wives don't kill you for staying up too late.
We've been doing this
anyway. 10:30.
Yeah, we've been doing this podcasting thing for 5 years now, and it started out
2 or 3 of them. I don't get on social media and watch a lot of stuff, but I'll follow along a little more and keep update with you boys.
We started this, and it would be like literally a 30 pack and 3 a.m. before we got done. So this
is fun. You guys are having a great time.
Yeah.
Hey, that's fun, man. It gives you guys something to do, and it looks like it's pretty damn successful. So I cheers to that.
Well, all right, man. We appreciate it.